you get news that Deepa, very fit, very competent, a guy who, as you talk about, as a young man, used to snatch up the deadly black mambas in his neighborhood and break their necks with his bare hands. So we don't really have many people of that caliber over here in the first world, but he had a gun pulled on him in a nearby town, and Deepa was able to disarm the guy, but someone ended up shooting the water engineer that Deepa was with. He shot him in the knee, which, as you write, in a place, without Western medicine, means that that guy would be lame for the rest of his life. Shooting someone in the knee is a very deliberate decision to maim them. And there was some uncertainty if the assailants were the police or if they were from another tribe, if this had to do with the upcoming election. It wasn't really clear. But along the way during your trip, there seemed to be this looming threat of violence, and you were very much in the dark as to how immediate that threat was. That was a plot point that unfolded throughout the book. How did that feel, being over there, really uncertain how immediate the threat was?
Well, sometimes I would think of photojournalists, war correspondents who are in battle all the time, and I would think I was kind of wimpy for being afraid. But at some times, I was afraid.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So at one point, my friend Jawas, who I spent a lot of time with hiking, just kind of casually comes and tells me that I'm moving from my beautiful tent up on the hillside, exposed, beautiful scenic view of the mountains, down to a new spot. And they move me into this thicket, a big thorn thicket, and there's been a path cut into the thicket. And when I start exploring it, I realize it's not just a path, but a maze. There's one way out in, several ways out, dead-end passages, all recently cut with a machete. And I moved into this middle of this thicket, and that's my new home. So I try to find out why I'm in the thicket. Why are you putting me here? But at the same time, the old friendly night guard who would guard the camp, armed with a wooden club, is replaced with who I call the burly guy, this big 200-pound, he looks like a linebacker on an NFL football team with a cross cartridge belt and a AK-47. So I put two and two together. Again, I don't speak Samburu, and people don't tell me what's going on, but I get this impression that there's a threat. And I was never able to put my hand on the threat. But Jawas tells me places to hide, caves, secret passageways. I'm given all the tools I need to escape if I need to. And then at one point, Tina, who's an American from Boston, who's the camp manager, sits me down, says, "Jon, you live in Montana in the woods, right?" I said, "Yeah, I live in Montana in the woods." And she says, "Yeah, just kind of curious. Do you ever hunt?" I say, "Yeah, I hunt. I'm a hunter. I hunt for our food." And she says, "Are you a pretty good shot?" And I look at her. I said, "Tina, why do you ask? Where is this conversation going? Why do you need to know this information?" And she says, "Well, I just want you to know that if trouble comes, there are more guns in this camp than you know about. And if we need you, can we count on you?"
Yeah,
and
not
I
exactly
go,
what you signed up for.
"Not exactly what I signed up for a biological study, a scientific study of lions." And I said, "Well, this isn't my war, and I want to go home."
Yeah.
I'm not a photojournalist. I'm not that brave. I don't want to be here. But the question in the book, this story by itself is just a little adventure story of some guy who went out and didn't get shot that day. But what comes to me is I start thinking, why do these people want to cut off my head?
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes deeply personal. I didn't steal money from them. I didn't sleep with their wives or daughters. Why do they want to cut off my head?
Mm-hmm.
And that leads to the much greater question, why is there evil in the world? And this is a big task. And when I said, I'm going to write a book about why is there evil in the world, my first reaction was, forget it, dude. Go home. That's too hard a question to ask. But over the course of a year or two, I said, no, that's what I have to write about.
Yeah, and it sounds like part of the answer is humans' ability to tell each other stories. You write a lot about how stories served us in major ways throughout history. We can get into that. It was a way of transmitting wisdom generation to generation. It was a way of rallying people around communities as we started to settle down into agricultural societies that were constituted with much larger populations than the nomadic tribes that came before them were. But at the same time, given our sort of weakness for stories, if the wrong people are at the helm of society telling stories that are maybe to leadership's benefit but not to everyone else's benefit, or if they can spin it in such a way that it seems like there's some great evil out there that society needs to safeguard itself against, people can get pretty riled up about what's more or less a myth, what's more or less something that just exists in their heads. And stories, again, critical part of what makes humans as successful as species as we are, but at the same time they're kind of our Achilles heel if they're co-opted by the wrong people.
Yeah, precisely. That's the heart of the book.